All right. Well, as we also do with these message bottle episodes, we're going to take a look at some community comments and other things that people wanted us to kind of take a look back at with a little bit more attention that we may have missed as we were going through the episode. So let's go ahead and jump into some of those comments. From episode 6.1, we have a comment on the YouTube from Arisato5552, and so it begins. Welcome, everyone, to the first act of the 3-part curtain call, episodes 6, 7, and 8 of this wonderful story. Hold on tight, because even though it looks like we're slowly reaching the end, some things are only just beginning to start.
Okay, I'm ready to talk about this. So, just even that, I'm so excited to get to the end of this and then have an opinion on what actually is the format of this story. Because we've talked about, the format being, questions and answers, questions and scattering, the first 4 is a prelude, then 5 and 6 is the real mystery, and then 7 and 8 is, the ending. I am so excited to get to the end and then eventually be able to form my own opinion of how this story flows. Because for someone to now call it oh no, we're in the ending, we're in the curtain call, I'm like, does not feel like where we currently are. I still feel in the midst of this story, and you're saying it's a curtain call, and I'm just like, oh no.
They also say some things are just beginning to start, which is the thing that
but they
actually
still
genuinely
put it
feels
there.
true.
Because
just so much has already been thrown at us over the course of this story. I'm just thinking about how much from the first half of this story we barely ever even touch on most of the time, because so much shit is still happening all the time, even more so now, and it's still only just beginning to start, it feels like. Can't wait. I also can't wait to see what opinions I have on the structure at the end of this.
Me too.
I'm really excited for us to get the start of episode 7. I think I gave us a really long read for the first part of episode 7, so we get a good chunk of some answers, hopefully.
And Ben can't start it yet because of the move.
Oh no. You gotta get it on your phone. On the drive, you can watch the YouTube version.
I mean, if I'm allowed to start reading right after we finish recording this,
Ooh.
I will.
All right.
I will have this computer up for 3 more days, and then it's being taken down until I get to the new place. So
yeah, that's plenty of time.
I also feel the second part of that comment, but mostly because it's so weird to me that a story that ended 2 episodes ago is at the beginning.
I know, right?
It's just, I don't understand eventually.
Or will you? We'll see.
It's got to be the context that it brings to the prior 6 episodes, right?
Yeah.
We also had some comments in the Discord that the real Answers arc of Umineko is when you go back and read it the second time, which I also agree with.
I thought that was the manga.
The manga, well,
Never
that's
gonna
another way to
happen.
do it.
Kyle, that was never part of the deal.
Depends on what level of answers you want. It's a choose your own willingness to torture yourself kind of story. All right. We also have a comment from Fragments in Fractals 999 who says, it's implied that Featherine intentionally limits the amount she knows to keep herself alive and hold identity, because otherwise the boredom would get to her. When you know everything, everything is boring. And that's like the question we were talking about, how Featherine seems to not know the answers to the stories, whereas Hachijo theoretically does. That's a possible explanation as to why that's the case.
Well, yeah, I guess there is a divergence there. But yeah, it is truly if you know everything, what else is there to discover? Is there any sense of interest left in your life? That is kind of crazy to think about.
It kind of feels like it also plays into the way that we're supposed to dislike that character as the author, because it's a little bit arrogant to think that you could possibly know everything as well. The fact that she thinks it's even possible and so deliberately avoids knowing everything is just a little bit that's uncomfortable, lady.
God forbid a witch come across as arrogant in this story.
No.
that's a good point.
Magic is just arrogance.
Oh.
That's a theory.
Well,
Without love, arrogance cannot be seen.
No. That's how we got into our current political situation, Capelli.
All right. From Certainly a Witch, we have, I feel like someone's going to murder the fighting game if they get around to that and see it play with part of their theory so hard.
Are they talking about me?
Oh, I'll just say that the fighting game, some of the stuff that goes on in that fighting game is apparently about some of the side theories I've had. The fighting game kind of talks about those.
Cool.
I have a theory on what they're talking about, and I don't know if I should say it or not, but I'm going to say it anyway because I can.
As long as it's not from knowledge you gained via spoiler.
Yeah, any speculation is fine, as long as you don't know.
No, I definitely don't know.
Yeah, then I definitely want to hear it.
But I could see this being like a weird Zelda Sheik situation with Kanon and Shannon because we're talking about them possibly being the same person in the sense that they're both half a person.
Okay.
That's like, to me, when they talk about fighting game and they talk about like the theories that we've talked, like that is the first thing that came to mind was like, oh, they switch in and out as one fighter because they are technically forming one whole person with each half a personhood, but they both want to be their own person, sort of thing. I don't know. That's the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting way to implement that. Yeah.
You're not going to believe the first thing that came to my mind.
I like that your deduction comes from game mechanics, but I also want to know what came to Capelli's mind.
Oh, it's sci-fi.
Do we just see UFOs coming in? Like, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
No, we're going to see so much more of the bunny girls,
No.
right? That's going to be a whole plot point. What's going on there?
We still haven't talked about the fourth bunny girl in a while, the one that got broke.
Yeah. Right. From episode 6.2, we have a comment from Copyright Infringement. Good episode on the whole. I also wholeheartedly second the ideas for future series. Any of them would be entertaining, in my opinion, but for my money, Homestuck is the best option. There's a fair bit of mystery to it, and is a cinema-visual medium, making it a good transition away from Umineko. So we have at least one vote for Homestuck.
That would be genuinely absolutely fucking insane. I don't know. The way I just got so excited about that, apparently there is still a lot of joy in my heart associated with Homestuck. Not even really like, I do think it's a really unique story told in a very unique way to this day. And when it's hitting its highs, it is as high as like great literature, but there's a lot of baggage with it and there are some real dearths to it as well. But man, what a roller coaster that would be.
Yep, boy. So, all right, we'll take your vote under advisement. From episode 6.3, we have a lot of comments about the I believe that was the episode that we had Erica giving her backstory about being cheated on. So we have a lot of comments kind of talking about their takes on Erica's character. So we've got Donkey Monkey 2012. Something I think is important to keep in mind with Erica is how she's a character in a story. In universe, she's a kid who fell into the ocean one day, and then a bunch of strangers wrote her as a detective. We don't know what the actual Erica was like. All we know is that this role that she's been put into. The scene with her backstory plays into this in an interesting way. Does the author of the in-universe episode 6 actually know this, or are they making it up? Even if it did happen, they couldn't have asked the real Erica about her true thoughts. Erica's my favorite character because she's a very good example of one of the tragedies hanging over this whole story. The deaths themselves were a tragedy, but now a bunch of strangers are using these dead people as characters for their own entertainment. Sure, there's the rule about pieces are never acting out of character, but does that all apply to the forgeries we don't see, written by people who don't know the truth? It also leads to another discussion of why did Featherine write this? But this comment is long enough already. Yeah, I appreciate you. Yeah, lots of really interesting stuff there.
That was a really good insight, Donkey Monkey. I really liked hearing Kyle read that, and I hadn't read it prior, but I never really thought about all the forgeries that we're not seeing, like all the different worlds that aren't actually the truth of narrative, so therefore don't actually matter to us as the reader, other than as speculative, what is out there written by other people, and how real people, and I'll say real in quotes here, real quote unquote people become characters in somebody else's story whenever they're not seen as real people, but they're seen as an oddity or a mystery. I really like that.
I have opinions on this, but I want to read the next comment before.
Sure. We've got a comment from Arisato5552. The whole Erica's boyfriend situation showing her as someone wounded by the concept of seeing with love, and thinking anyone who sees with love is doomed to be betrayed and wounded just like her, making her feel superior in the act of tearing apart the rose-tinted glasses off of people to make them see what she believes as the sole truth, hurting others the same way she was hurt.
So I don't know if I've come across as somebody who says that Erica is a bad character. I don't like her as a person. I enjoy several fictional characters who are complete pieces of shit. If you've ever read the Blade itself, you know Glock is probably my favorite character in all of fiction, and he's a horrible person. But the difference is, I think for me, is like a well-written villain, whether it's villain turned hero or villain turned sympathized. Because like a lot of characters I've said I don't like them, but then I've come around like, oh, now we got more context, whatever, right? The difference between all of that and like what it happens with Erica is by the time we see their trauma or how they've been impacted or what's changed, you can get to a point of wanting to root for them in a way. The only moment I have ever considered wanting to root for Erica was when Battler started to show compassion and sympathy towards her. And then as soon as he walks out of the room, it's all devilish grins and smiles and haha, he fell for a trap, what an idiot. And so it's just like, oh no, so they're just total pieces of shit. and there's nothing redeeming about what their current state of character is to me. I never want to root for them. It's just a character you love to hate, which doesn't make them a bad character by any means. It doesn't mean that they're not sympathetic, because there are definitely people like that out there, but I'm more invested in other villains and archetypes that are already in this story and then doing that. And not every character needs to be doing the same thing, but I don't know, like, I can understand where she comes from, and I really did enjoy the perspective of Erica having been there with the scene with Love and having it completely backfire, and then trying to tear that away, not just to be vindictive, but be like, don't you all see it's pointless to do this? All you're going to do is get hurt. When that line comes across in the narrative, maybe then this opinion will shift a little bit, if she can see herself as trying to save people from the pain that she's been through. But so far, it's only come across to me as a self-pity party.
And it's also fine for her to just be a villain. It's fine.
Yeah. And yes, she's just a child, and yes, she's got to grow and all that. But, like, you can only use that excuse so far in stories like this, where the child is already doing insane things that an adolescent could never feasibly do anyway.
I mean, the thing with Erica is the situation with her boyfriend is a betrayal that sends her spiraling, and then she is then conditioned by a cruel master and abused for however long, we don't really know, into serving this singular purpose and to not let her master down. And to me, like, watching that scene where, were you talking about when Battler like concedes the duct tape to her?
Yeah.
Yeah. Watching him give her that and then him leave the room and her being like, haha, he fell for it, is just like, to me, that was a person that you're rooting for to throw off their conditioning and is still not yet ready to make that choice, if they ever will be.
Yeah.
And so I do see her as a really tragic character. Do I agree with her or think she's necessarily a good person at this point in her life? Honestly, in a narrative of some of the worst people I've ever read about in fiction, you know what? I'm not going to judge her all that hard.
Fair.
I feel like we have to leave that right into the next comment, because, like, you said some stuff that's almost verbatim what the next person says.
Yeah, we've got some more from TJ Sind 2000. It's implied that Erica's boyfriend did actually cheat on her, since Birdcastle was able to raise her blue truth up into red truth in the end. Thing is, the fact that she was right to suspect and investigate him is what soothed her and calmed her down after the heartbreak, hence why she latched onto that exact feeling as being right all the time. I think the scene was genius exactly because it's all you get about Erica. After all, the more you think about it, it's really all you need to know, and I find that to be such a masterful way of handling it.
I can agree with that too.
Yeah, like, regardless of how it happened, honestly, what came through to me is just what sent her spiraling is a sense of betrayal and hurt, and she is a hurt person that has been manipulated and repeatedly hurt continuously, much like a lot of characters in this narrative.
Yes, it seems to be, I mean, that is literally one of the recurring major themes of the story, like the chain of trauma.
Yeah.
All right. The other kind of comment we got on that episode, because that was a very big episode with a lot of stuff going on it, was about Kyrie saying 18 years of hell discrepancy. So we've got a couple of takes on that. One from Codger003. A plausible hypothesis to explain the discrepancy of 18 years ago is that Rudolph and Asumu met in 1962, which is when they were still in school. But they also believe that it's just an arithmetic mistake that Ryukishi07 made, and it really should just be 12.
Can you remind me what you're talking about?
So this is during the fight between Kyrie and Jessica. Kyrie talks about how she was in hell for 18 years because Asumu stole Rudolph away from her. But, like, if you do the math, technically between the time when that happened and when Asumu died 6 years ago, that was actually 12 years, not 18 years. So there's kind of 6 years of, like, either she was still in hell after Asumu died, or she was in hell before Asumu stole Rudolph. Like, there's kind of a discrepancy of exactly how we're calculating 18 years. Whether that's just because 18 is the rhetorical flourish that is important to the story, or if it's because it was a mistake, hard to say. Although Fragments and Fractals 99 has a take that I think is interesting. But turning the chessboard around, it's because the year of the family conference is the year Kyrie was able to convince Battlers to rejoin their family and live in their house. In other words, Kyrie has gotten on Battler's good side, and to her, that is the ultimate victory over Asumu. Getting Battler to like her, the mistress of Rudolph cheated on Asumu with, is perfect. He is her son now, and yes, she is that petty. So it's 18 years, 12 years with Asumu alive, and then 6 years until Battler becomes Nishimiya again and accepts her being Nishimiya too. This soothes her envy, getting the equivalent of her son back.
I love it. Oh my god.
I love it
Yes,
too.
sold.
Also, Kyle, I would like you to do the reading of Perfect one
Perfect
more
properly.
time.
Yeah, can you read? That's not what that's not said.
Perfecto. Yeah.
I like the theory. I'm torn between like there really hasn't been enough evidence of like Kyrie's internal monologue, her thoughts on Battler,
Mhm.
but like she's a character that we have just gotten like such a slow drip feed of who she is throughout the story that there's just clearly more to come from her. That like at this point, I could totally see this being a true revelation.
Yeah, that's kind of my take as well. Is like I think it's a really interesting theory. Is there textual evidence for it? Maybe not so much, but again, like that's kind of what we're left to with some of these things. Is like, well, like, you can make a good case that she is just that petty, and she sees that Battler accepting her as a member of the family and them returning to the single cohesive family unit is like the complete victory over Osamu stealing that away from her. Like I think that's a fair take. So
Yeah. Oh man, it's perfect. It's genius. I love it. There's everything that I like about Kyrie wrapped into that. I think it's great.
Yeah, me too.
from episode 6.4, we have another comment by Fragments and Fractals 99. It's implied in the magic scenes with Goldsmith in episode 4 and in the love trial in episode 6, Rosa's sin is not making choices, but instead reacting to other people's choices in a negative fashion. Everyone else decides what she should do for her in her own head. Even the father of her own child, who has probably long forgotten she existed. Rosa fears choice but has to make them. It's a very juicy take.
That's really interesting because, I mean, I don't like Rosa, but I don't dislike Rosa as much as, like, Capelli does.
Understandably.
She sucks.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I know. And I think that's just context in where we are in our lives currently and who we have in our lives or who we don't. But like I think Rosa is the most damaged person on the island, period. Like even more so than Maria. And I just think Maria has more capacity to bounce back from it. And Rosa just continually was hurt over and over again and continues to get hurt and can't even have what she would see as the child that would help her because she's not the child that she wanted, even if you don't get to choose that kind of stuff. This comment did make me think of something else, but I'm going to hold that until we talk more, until other people talk about Rosa, because I have something unrelated to Rosa completely.
So I think I realize why I dislike Rosa so much is that of all the characters in the story, she's the person who I'm most terrified of becoming myself.
Interesting.
Like of all the parents, I guess maybe Kinzo's arguably worse, but I don't see myself locking myself away to studying magic for the rest of my life and brutally emotionally manipulate my kids.
I think you could rock that cloak, though.
I probably could. Ooh, there's a cosplay idea.
You're also kind of disregarding the years of implied physical and emotional abuse before he started locking himself up in the study too. So it really could be pretty bad.
That happened to him or that he did to his kids?
Oh, that he probably did to his kids.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
we have some evidence of that, yeah.
Though I guess if we want to be fair, we have like maybe 2 scenes of Kinzo actually being in the story.
Yeah, it's mostly like Eva's flashback from. Oh, I guess even that's still a flashback. Yeah,
The very beginning of the entire thing.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah.
thinking about was the flashback there and Rosa's flashback to when she met the real Beato who then died climbing the cliff. Like that's it. Those are the 2 instances that we get.
Mom, that's wild.
Do we trust that? Which forgery was that written in?
Ooh, too true.
If we can't trust Erica's backstory, can we trust Rosa's?
That was episode 2, so that's supposedly
Oh, okay.
a true message bottle.
Yeah. What even is a character, like, at this point? Like, what?
What's a character? What's a human? What's furniture? What's a piece?
We're all living in a simulation, guys. That's okay.
Of course.
Mm-hmm. Because it's sci-fi.
Exactly. You get it.
Waiting to wake up, Capelli.
I'm cool with being an NPC. It's fine. I don't want the responsibility of being real.
Exactly. Off topic, but I'm going to bring that up. There is a game coming out that is literally called, like, what happens after the hero dies at the final boss. Like, that's the whole title. And then it's everybody else in the town that the hero was trying to save then has to band together and, like, actually do the thing the hero was doing all by themselves. It's very funny.
That's fun.
That's cool.
That does sound fun.
It's a silly, like, 8-bit, 16-bit, like, auto battler, but, like, it looks...
Auto battler.
The concept for it
Auto
is...
battler?
Nailed it. But the concept is very much like, what if the NPCs suddenly had to, like, band together and be real people?
That's cool. I like stories like that.
One thing that this comment made me think of, unrelated to Rosa, was remember the note in episode 4 whenever there were numbers that could refer to like a birth date and all of that shit, where the fuck did that go? Like, I don't know why.
That's episode 8, Ben. You're getting ahead
This
of
is what
yourself.
I'm saying. There's so much stuff that we've just forgotten about because we have so much stuff.
I mean, to be fair, it's like, how many hours of reading have we done up to this point for a clue, riddle, puzzle, whatever, that's been on screen for maybe 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Like,
Who knows, man?
Guys, we started this.
Years
You
ago.
and Ben started this almost 2 years ago at this point.
Over 2 years.
Yeah.
Becca and I started a year and a half ago. Like, what?
I think we recorded our first episode in late February of 24.
Yeah, it's almost 2 years.
Recorded my first podcast when I was in Palm Springs, California, for a softball tournament, which always happens at the end
Oh
of
my God.
January.
Yeah, there's no way I'm remembering stuff that's that, like,
Yeah.
that happened that long ago.
That's why,
No,
like,
yeah.
when they said goldsmith, something like fired in my head. I'm like, but what about that paper? And like that, like I literally don't know what goldsmith actually means in this context, but it made me think of the thing that like
Mhm.
I haven't thought about in like a year.
It's Kenzo's alternate like magical title that he's only used in episode
Mhm.
4.
Oh, okay.
Yep, that is one of the pitfalls of this format. I mean, it's not really the format; it's more of like the time it takes me to edit. But is how long it is between these episodes. But it gives its own benefits. So it's definitely a different experience than you would get if you would just read it on your own. But obviously,
for sure.
we get something different out of it, which is also good.
For all the details I forget, like the overarching themes and like the character interactions and stuff really does stick with me having the time to process it. So I appreciate it.
That's true, actually. Yeah, I probably do remember so much more of this than I do most other media I consume, just because we are talking about it so much. And so I'm having to revisit it and revisit the themes and ideas that crop up, even though I'm a bad mystery solver.
All right. For episode 6.5, we have a comment from Hoshiomi421. Treat Umineko as a mystery, and Nox's first commandment immediately tells you the culprit must be one of the 18. Treat Umineko as a chess game, and you already know the board, 16 pieces per side. For episode 1, the answer isn't hidden. It's limited by the rules you choose to trust.
All right, we could just skip over this one. I don't want to talk about
What?
it. I'm
I
mad
wanna-
at it.
I want to say
I'm
something
mad.
about this one.
I'm mad at this.
No, I want to say something about this one.
Yeah,
Hoshiomi.
no, that's fine.
I don't know what Yomi means in Japanese. I know Hoshi is star and you're my star because I've been saying this. I've been saying if we listen to Nox's first commandment, like episode 1 holds a lot of the answers that we need.
True.
Probably not all of them but like, man, wish I've had more time because I simply have not. I've been trying to deep dive on it and I just haven't gotten anywhere. Yeah. I'm convinced that so much information is in episode 1 if we just like had the eyes to see it.
Episode 1 is the one that I have definitely spent the most time dissecting, to the point where, like, I think I came up with the theory that, like, it has to be canon.
I think you suspected Kanon for a bit, and there was like a few little things that made it not quite work.
Right. Because he clearly dies.
Yeah,
Mhm,
it has
yes,
to be
yeah.
canon in conjunction with someone, I think.
Yeah.
Like if you go with that theory, and I think it almost has to be Genji, but because Genji is one of the few to survive until the end.
Yeah. Genji's not a killer, though. That's in red.
He at least wasn't the killer of.
No, not the killer. A murderer. The red is given in a way that the words used are unique, where it's like Genji, Kumasawa, and Nanjo are not killers.
Right, yeah.
They never commit the crimes. Doesn't mean they're not accomplices or masterminds or whatever, but they have not physically. And then the red is ambiguous. Does it mean just episode 1, or does it mean throughout all of 1 through 4?
Yeah,
I believe that one's an episode-specific one, if I remember correctly. But yeah, it is hard to say.
Yeah. But then now you piece it together with the theory of Shannon Kanon doubling up, and the only people who saw Shannon was Kanon and Hideyoshi. What does that mean about Hideyoshi? That's like the thread that I want to start pulling, but I lack any context to look for further clues or something. But like, it's clearly Shannon, Kanon, Mastermind, whomever is like forcing people to say or not say things at certain times, and it's all about Battler.
All right, well, we will get to that more when we get to our theory crafting section here in a bit. All right. We also have another comment from Fragments and Fractals 999. Meta-narratively, logic errors are plot holes that break the magic of suspension of disbelief. You cannot be a good creator if you cannot keep the magic going. I thought that was a very succinct explanation of how logic errors work.
I really like that. I also think we brought this up recently, so if I'm being repetitive, sorry about that. But I think the entire pitch of, and I know what Capelli's response to this is gonna be, but I think the initial pitch of saying this is mystery versus fantasy is such a red herring in retrospect because it is both. It has to tick both boxes the entire time. And some might call that sci-fi,
But there was a third box checked in secret.
But yeah, I like the way that you put that. You can't be a good creator if you can't keep the magic going. That's very real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
I feel like you could even take that one step further to like lead into boredom will kill the witches or something, right?
And we also have the context that this is a story that was written by Toya, right? The author actually wrote the actual thing, and the message bottles themselves were originally written. So like writing is definitely a strong metaphor throughout the entire story.
All right, so the story is about 4 things, right?
I want to see what 4 things you pick.
Feminism, storytelling, chess, and the thing that Becca said earlier tonight. I can't remember now. It was good.
You're forgetting generational trauma.
Well, that's implied with the feminism.
Yeah, that's not inaccurate.
I'm no expert on the subject, but my wife did get me to read The Handmaid's Tale a few years ago. So, you know,
Is it good?
And we thank you for your service.
It's one of the most horrifying books I ever read because it's like, oh shit, this could actually happen. And then the past few years have happened. So, you know.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Moving on to episode 6.6. We have a comment from Fie9969. I'm surprised no one discovered the Erica character description when you execute her in the tip of 6. Will be a good thing to bring up in the next message bottle episode. The reactions will be hilarious. So I've included the what happens if you execute Erica in the tips segment below here for y'all to take a look at.
Fell from her pleasure boat and currently
Wait, no, I
missing.
read all of these. I'm sure I did.
Due to the Rokkenjiima explosion accident that occurred shortly after, her own accident was lost to history. Her family argues that she might have drifted to Rokkenjiima and gotten involved in the accident, but no evidence indicating her presence on the island has been found at the scene.
I'm sorry. What?
Forgers who learn of her fall from the boat often theorize that she drifted onto Rokkenjiima and add her into the witch illusion.
Wait, so
That's very funny.
explosion. I'm sure I read this. I must have been very tired when I read this because I've made a point of reading all of these when we finished an episode.
How can Rokkenjiima explode?
Explosion.
Yeah, I knew that there was an explosion.
I think it is called an explosion in the episode where we see Angie survive. Yeah? Am I wrong?
No, it's not called an explosion. They call it an accident.
Okay. An accident.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Explosions feels new.
Explosion has specifically been brought up before because the only person that was in a safe place in episode 3 was Ava for some reason. I believe she was found at Kumadorian or something.
It's not explicitly said that it's an explosion until in this particular part, though.
An explosion was brought up. I know it because it's in my head,
I don't remember it, but
and there was zero other reason it would be in my head, Kyle.
Oh, you've picked up on the clues that have been dropped this whole time, Ben.
I can think of one reason, Ben.
I did not get spoiled, I promise.
It rhymes with Wi-Fi.
Okay, yes.
Sorry, the only thing that I can think of is Dr. Nanjo does not rhyme with Wi-Fi, so...
For some reason, Ben, I also had an explosion in my head. Maybe we had a mass psychotic event, but for some reason, explosion was also in my head.
I don't think so. I think it was brought up somewhere.
We may have talked about the explosion theory at some point.
No, it wasn't a theory. I'm pretty sure it was said somewhere.
Have you guys been clicking on spoilers again? That's me and Hayley's thing, I'll have you know.
I absolutely have not.
Not until Kyle verifies them. I have self-restraint.
I'm not even clicking them now. He's verified them. I do not want
I
to know.
don't even look at our Discord, friends.
That also does it, yeah. But yeah, so I mean, in terms of like what we knew about it, it's like obviously Angie went to the island, and it talks about her like she can go to where the mansion was. She stings above like a big area that like descends into the destroyed area. It's all a bunch of vague stuff about like why can't she go to the mansion? Why can't she see anything? Why is nothing there anymore? She's like standing on a hill next to a big crater. So.
Hopefully we get to see more
Oh
about
my
what happens there
God.
whenever her partner is about to murder her.
That's why they talk about the odds of her finding any evidence is slim to none. Do you think it's just because of how much time has passed?
Yep, the only thing that was canonically found was Maria's jawbone. The only body part they ever found.
Which that was the only
Delightful.
thing that could be identified through dental records.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that.
Damn.
Yeah, it's an interesting little.
The context, like that's how Emma's fucking innocent. She's just, which means that the gold is probably in Kuadorian
Maybe.
because that's why she would have been there.
Did Ava know where the gold was in episode 3, or did she find it in episode 4?
3 is when she finds it and becomes Ava Beatrice.
Okay.
Man.
I feel like Hayley's and I's brains are like we're ruminating over the same things right now.
I don't know why, but I wasn't shocked when I saw it was an explosion. I'm more surprised that this is the way that they are justifying Erica's inclusion. Is that somebody learned about Erica disappearing around the same time that this explosion happened, and therefore was able to like write her in canonically that she washed up on shore and got mixed up with it as the detective of this entire story. And that's how canonically she is allowed to be here. But since there's no proof of her being there or not being there, she is like that is why she is either the 17th or 18th, I guess, person in a sense of well, I guess if she's there, she's obviously a person. But like that is why she can be included as a human depending on how you set up this story. I think that this then goes to the setup of, and we'll talk about this in Theorizing, the setup of the story matters so much. You setting the game board up in a specific way, which they talk about in interludes of every single episode, of how the story is going to play out, which characters are human and which characters are not, etc., and how that can affect what plays out.
At the end of the question mark segment, Burncastle says that, she picked up the pieces and began arranging them, already signals that the game has already begun. That's part of the game itself, is placing the pieces on the board.
Has fanfic gone too far when, like, this is the lengths at which you're willing to include historical people into your own story?
Well, the entire story is already historical, right? Like, it's a real accident that happened in the universe of Umineko.
I'm just, like, imagining, like, my daughter went missing on this boating trip. And then 5-10 years later, these crazy people are writing her into a narrative about this travesty that happened on an island close by, and like that's what people remember about her. Like, I'd be, I don't know, I have no idea what I feel, but it wouldn't be a happy thought, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
Unless she was going around like solving all my capers, then I might be okay that she's gone.
Yeah, she'd given us the actual answer. She'd be like, "Yeah, it's fine."
That's true. That jerk and her duct tape are gone.
Respect is only for winners.
I miss her.
So another comment from Fragments and Fractals 99. In episode 4, Kraus says the external phone line is down, but right before and after that, he sees Kenzo and explicit magic.
Yep.
So
anybody who says that they see magic, their testimony is not trustworthy in that episode. So I guess the only people who tell us about phone lines being down are servants, and then Kraus in this instance. But then, like, do we know if it was Kraus trying the phone line himself?
I don't think so. I think he just comes back to like the dining hall and reports that the phone lines are down after talking to Kenzo.
Yeah. And then, of course, when they're in the jail cell, it probably gets mentioned there. But like, at that point, again, testimony is so crazy.
Sure is.
It's funny because, like, I know that some of these comments are responding to things we must have said in the episodes, but not really remembering all of the stuff that we talked about. It kind of feels like Fragments and Fractals, because you've been commenting on everything. Kudos. Love that. Thank you. It kind of feels like you're leaving us a trail of breadcrumbs to follow.
I love it.
Yeah, like we don't have enough breadcrumbs.
And there's breadcrumbs that started with breadcrumbs we left that we just don't remember putting them.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. An Ouroboros of breadcrumbs. Anyway, please, Ben, I want to hear what you were thinking about.
I was thinking about my theory, and again, going back to Theorizing with the jail cell in episode 4, Shannon and Kanon were both locked in the jail cell together.
They were indeed.
So if they're like, I'm interested to see how that plays into everything, because like we then hear Kyrie, who's, according to Capelli, and I kind of agree with, testimony can't be trusted because she says that she sees magic, and that Battler has to believe in magic because there's things that she witnessed that could not make sense. So what does that then mean for the Shannon Kanon same person situation, where there are really only 5 people locked in there? And how did everyone go from the dining hall to the jail cell in the first place without any time passing? There's still so many mysteries that like we're...
Yeah, I mean, it's important to understand that Kenzo is dead. So there's already like, fundamentally, we have problems immediately with all those
Everything
scenes.
that happens in the jail cell could be a mass hallucination for all we know, because everything that happens in there is magic almost.
I mean, my theory is basically that nothing in the dining room happened.
Wasn't Battler there? Or was
No.
Battler not there?
And that's an interesting one. Episode 4 is the one where Battler is like in the guest house the entire time. He sees nothing. Like his physical piece never sees anything until he leaves and then finds a bunch of dead bodies.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he finds a shit ton of dead bodies in episode 4. Like,
That's one he also where he talks to Beatrice in person. Yeah.
Yes, he talks to Beatrice in person, and she tries to get him to
Well,
remember the sin.
he talks to someone on a balcony.
Well, yeah, he sees it at Beatrice, but that doesn't mean
Right.
that it is actually. I do think, again, going into theorizing, I think there is a Beatrice on the island.
Okay, well, we're almost there. Let's wrap up these comments.
Beatrice is clearly the joint identity of Shannon and Kanon, which is how you don't break the 16th/17th/18th people thing. I don't know.
Well, that is something we will talk more about.
It's going to be something far outside the box.
Outside the cat box, yep. I just did this comments 8423. Ari, who on Umineko is queer? I've always thought the way Eva treats Natsui as a target she gets to wield misogyny against, her resentment of her status as a daughter because of the way Kraus and Kenzo hold it against her, making Hideyoshi take her family name and become her wife in a sense, and literally saying, I've never thought of myself as a woman in episode 3 are pretty strong grounds for a transmasculine reading. In a pretty similar way as Cersei Lannister, I think you can make a case that Eva's response to being victimized by the patriarchy is, well, this is clearly wrong. I should have been the one with the privilege here. I'm being denied my birthright because I'm a man, but I can't articulate that. Not exactly an unproblematic view on one's own gender if you take it that way, but plenty of trans men have complex relationships to misogyny. Yeah, it's interesting. Trans mask reading of Eva.
She is very similar to Cersei Lannister in that sense, and I totally subscribe to that reading.
Yeah, I like that comparison.
I do think for what it's worth, Ava's a bit smarter than Cersei.
I was literally about to say the exact same thing. Yeah.
Could Cersei Lannister solve the epitaph?
I have such a complex, love-hate relationship for Cersei Lannister. I want to have sympathy for her, but I think she makes terrible decisions at almost every turn. Ava, while she is a terrible person, is smart in a different way.
It's that she makes terrible decisions, and then her internal monologue is so self-conflating. I'm so smart. Father would have been so proud of me. Eva does not. Eva's competent, you know.
And here I am actually low-key showing my internalized misogyny by pitting two queens against each other. We don't need to be doing this, but
you can contrast without comparing.
We're talking previously about a queer reading of Umineko, just that lens, and I can't believe this did not come up. How do we not bring up Runaway as the queer icon that he is?
Didn't we?
Just didn't get brought up. No.
Renove is pretty queer. I can agree with that.
Literally, when he's introduced, he basically hits on Battler, and Battler's like, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I feel like Runaway would be best friends with Lady Gaga, and that's why I like him a lot.
All right. And finally, we have a comment from Candex11037. On the note of the theory that the culprit jumps every time the number of people is said in red, it's very funny because there was a version of this theory when the game was still coming out called Platform X. It's basically that the culprit was standing on a platform and they don't count as being on the island, but can still commit crimes.
I think that is
That's
so
really good.
funny. I love that so much.
Well, didn't Capelli or somebody here make a joke about how every time they count, somebody just jumps in the air? So they're not
it
on
was
the island?
Capelli, I think.
I fucking
Yeah.
love that other
Yep.
people thought of the same stupid nonsense. That makes me so happy. It's not
I
just
like
me.
Platform X a lot. Imagine if that was the answer, though, and how bad we would actually be.
That would be rough.
I'm hearing Battler be something we'll call Platform X.
Yep.
God, the story is written in such a way that, yeah, I can see that feasibly being something he tries.
Yeah.
That's so funny to me.
I think it would be funny if this entire thing, the four of us were reading like this is some elaborate thing, but really Kyle and all of these commenters and all the viewers are really just forcing us to read this really stupid ending.
Yeah, right?
And that this is really just like a Truman Show sort of thing.
Oh, it's going to be like a Nate and Lever joke.
For the four of us, it would be very hilarious.
If the story ends and the answer is some stupid bullshit like that, I'll be in tears of hilarity and anger, and I wouldn't know how to feel.
Well, we'll just have to see.
Thank you for that, Candex. I love knowing that that's a thing that exists.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank everyone who wrote comments on our YouTube videos or talked with us in the Discord. I highly recommend people jump into the Alpha Meta Discord to chat with us as we occasionally post things as we're reading or before we, eventually get the episode out a month later and talk about some of our thoughts and theories. And it's always a great place to chat. We have a spoiler Discord as well for talking about some of the ongoing. As I'm going through my reread, I'm learning a lot of stuff that I didn't realize in my first read that I'm talking about in there. And so that's always really interesting, getting to hear people's differing opinions on what the story is meaning in different parts. So there's always more to read from Umineko. All right. So I've gathered here a selection of topics that I think are things that are open questions about from this episode that I think would be interesting to talk about. So I've given y'all the list. Are there any of these that y'all want to start with? Is there one that we should talk about that first?
So I would like to jump in right here because I'm sure I'll have stuff to say about all of these, but I don't know where my particular thing I have to say fits. So I'm just going to say it. And this has been going around my head for a few weeks now. And you're all going to sigh and groan, and it's completely tasteless. And I'm okay with that. So my theory is that the KKK did it. And by KKK, I mean Kumasawa,
All right, and moving on.
Kyrie, and Kanon.
I know where you're going with this. God damn it.
Kanon, Kumasawa, and Kinzo.
Oh, boy.
Kanon, Kumasawa, Kyrie. Not Kinzo, Kyrie.
I like that better.
So sorry, yeah.
Oh boy.
Very stupid.
Have you
and-
noticed
Okay,
none
no,
of
that's
them
very
are
funny.
POC?
That's true.
Wait, aren't they all Japanese?
They're all Japanese.
Asian.
I don't know enough about the language and the culture to know if Japanese
the
are
KKK.
POC. Yeah, I don't know about the KKK. Sorry. Not my place.
Yeah, I mean, so we were talking about Kumasawa, we're talking about Kyrie, and we're talking about Kanon. I think there's definitely a lot of stuff going on with all of them, except for Kumasawa, who's just mysteriously absent a lot.
Which is why she's prime suspect.
Yeah.
Kumasawa has about as much going on as Nanjo does. So,
I think she's got a little bit more because she's got those mackerel jokes.
wow. Does that make it more or less, Hayley?
It really depends on your perspective. And I mean, given that I thought making a joke about the KKK was appropriate, my perspective is probably not one to be regarded.
Oh, man.
I got a good chuckle out of it.
I'm just glad that you said it.
Yeah. Very funny.
Guys, I'm a woman of color. I've realized, you can't actually see me, people listening to this.
Yeah, we'd love just to say it for the listener if that's not.
I am a black woman making that joke because the accent's not going to give it away either.
That is very true. That's very funny. I thank you so much.
We'll see if that makes the edit.
Way better. I think you should cut that part in, disclaimer. Hayley says,
Disclaimer.
I am a black woman.
I'm a black
and then goes with,
Oh boy.
You know, a lot of podcasts will, after the end, they'll, cut in, 1 or 2 lines that has no context.
Those
We've
are
already
my-
tonight said some great things.
Yeah. Oh, dear.
all right.
So sorry, actual theory crafting.
No, you're good. That's a good place to start off.
No, you're good. That's stating who you think is potential culprits is useful to think
Yeah.
about as we go through the rest of these topics.
Yeah. I would like to start with the Beatrice.
Okay.
What is the proper plural here? Beatrices.
All right. So in this episode, we have 2 Beatrices after our reborn chick Beatrice gets sucked into a copy of the portrait as she's gazing on, wondering why she's so different from or similar to that version. She's brought back to the past where another Beatrice also exists that is kind of more in line with the ruler of Rokkenjiima's knight that you would expect. So we have Chick Beato and we have Beatrice the Elder, or the 2 Beatrices of this episode. Although there are other Beatrices that appear throughout the story. And so that's another question we have is, what are these Beatrices? How do they relate to those 2 Beatrices? How many Beatrices are there? It's always a good question. So for Chick Beatrice, they use the pronoun watashi, which is meant for it's kind of an archaic, noble woman kind of pronoun. Notably, it's also the same pronoun that is used by the ghost of Beatrice from episode 4 that appears and says, who am I? In regards to how Battler dies at the very end, which is an interesting little tidbit. Has a human body, cannot use magic, at least at first, is only weak to the spiritual mirror, not to any other of the weaknesses of Beatrice, loves Battler, apparently has an incomplete soul as they can participate in the trial of love, and has a weird flashback when they lose that said trial of love. That is its whole thing. And for Beatrice the Elder, they use the pronoun warawa, which is the same pronoun that Beatrice classically uses. I think warawa is the one that's the archaic noblewoman, and watashi is more of a polite young girl or something like that. I'm not Japanese, so it's hard for me to remember exactly what these are.
I think it's what you just said because Watashi was was her being more polite as Chick Beato, I think.
Yes. And so together they apparently merge to form the true Beatrice, although how and what that means is, not really known.
The Elder, was she weak to the mirror?
Mm-mm.
She was not. No.
Interestingly, it's not shown if she is weak to the mirror itself. She She is shown to be weak to spiderwebs and magic charms, but I don't believe they ever actually state if she would be affected by it, the spiritual mirror.
So I've been thinking a bit about this, and I do think that these two Beatos actually represent different forces within the truth of this. Like, I think Chick Beato, like her losing the love battle, relates to the Beatrice that falls off the cliff.
Okay.
I think that there's almost like a one-to-one correlation in a lot of ways. While Beatrice the Elder, the one that's more incorporeal, the prankster, relates more to the myth of Beatrice and like the stories that have come up around it, and that there is some being that is calling themselves Beatrice, maybe doesn't look like the Beatrice that we see, that are making this myth real such that they can actually like, get away with the truth of what's been happening on this island. That's how I have seen it, just like at a bird's eye glance of what these mean, and the two of them coming together kind of forms the actual true culprit behind what is actually happening. I think that the two of them, the motivations behind Chick Beato versus the person physically creating the Beatrice the Elder story, ends up forming the culprit. There was one thing you mentioned in our earlier section, Kyle, that from one of the comments, if you take this as a mystery, then Nox's first means that one of the 18 on the island had to have done it. The other character that they didn't include on that 18 is technically Beatrice, but just in some different form. Like, there's no reason we learned about Beatrice pretty early as like a character and as like a myth. Why could there not be something that's using her name and using the title, the myth, the mysteriousness? They talk about so much in episode 1 how Beatrice exists, period. That, like, why can whatever is making Beatrice exist, why can they not also be the culprit if there's something behind all of this?
I think by Nox, you would still have to have whoever that is. They would also still have to be someone that we know, right? There can never be, there has to be someone we know behind whatever stages of obfuscation we have. But I think there's still some truth to that.
That's fair. That's one I've been thinking about a lot.
A completely out of nowhere theory that I have that I'm only going to say because it correlates to the strongest theory of Shannon and Kanon as well.
Of the KKK, yeah.
You're so welcome.
Is that Chick Beato is Shannon and the Elder is Kanon, and the two of them combined are Beatrice in some fashion. And like you could connect it to like the Beatrice that died 19 years ago, as like they found out about her, or kind of like all of Kinzo trying to bring her back or whatever inspired them. And like I could get into a why done it. Like I don't want to too much because we're gonna do that separately soon. But like the only why done it I can even really fathom is something to do with the house. I was with him, that stupid house.
Fukuin House.
Fukuin House. And Shannon's supposed early crush on Battler, and then he left and didn't come back.
Okay.
And so this whole thing is like sort of a love note / revenge story done on his behalf or behest.
Okay, I can see that.
Like I'm trying to make connections.
I dig it.
Yeah, Shannon is such a weird case, right? Because she's 16 and been working here since before 6 years ago. So she's been here a long ass time. Something that I feel like gets kind of lost in the
clearly enough to like have some sort of mental breakdown where there's two personalities in one.
Maybe
it could also be two people like, swapping costumes. Like I think one body with two personalities.
I suppose it would depends on how you define what a person is. Yeah.
I mean, I guess it can't be two separate people because then the contradicting reds at the end of episode 6 simply couldn't be.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the biggest limiters on theories is that final red truth.
I like most of that though.
I do have, and I don't know if this is going to make any sense. And I don't know where to put it, but since we're talking about Kanon and Shannon right now, this seems like as good a place to talk about it as any.
We can freely move through these topics, and then we can shift however it makes sense.
So one of the things I was thinking about, and again, I have not gotten very far in trying to review episode 1. I've just kind of been reviewing notes and making notes and not having time to sit and think about them. So I haven't gotten very far. But one of the things I was thinking about is like practically, if we're thinking about how these murders can happen in real time, why do all of the scratches on Natsui's? I was thinking through ways practically how someone would fake the being repelled by the scorpion charm on her door because no one knows that she has it. And so a theory popped into my head where if whoever is committing these murders, if Natsui is one of the original first Twilight targets, they go into her room and they see that charm on the door. They think, oh, this is a great opportunity to blame something on Beato. I'm going to shift my target for tonight. And instead of killing Natsui, they close the door, do all of the bullshit to make it look like Beato tried to get in and was repelled, and then kill, quote unquote, Shannon in her place, ? If we're thinking Shannon and Kanon are the culprit.
I was just thinking that.
So
yeah, that works.
That was something that popped into my mind as a possibility. But again, no larger context for that or idea if that's possible. But
I mean, for that to work, the culprit would have to be somebody who was present with Maria explaining what the charms were for, or someone who also would have to have extensive knowledge of the occult.
Yeah, exactly. And if it's Kanon and Shannon, they have that knowledge.
Well, I mean, Maria has met with someone claiming to be Beatrice, right? So
that too.
there's whoever the culprit is has been theoretically they're intimate of the lore.
Maria wasn't given the charms; she made them herself.
Yeah, yes. I think she either bought them online or made them with something with a scorpion. Yeah, a scorpion motif.
Yeah, I think she says she makes them.
There's something funny about Maria browsing eBay.
I mean, she did have to feed herself a lot.
I won my bid. Ooh, ooh.
Yeah, let's talk more about furniture then. So that is one of the other major topics of this episode is what exactly is furniture? It's a question that has been on everyone's mind for a long time. And this episode goes into it a lot, but also adds a lot of confusing new directions to think about it, primarily through the lens of love, right? Furniture is not permitted to know love. And one of the explanations that is given is that they are incomplete souls that cannot fully love. We have the whole anti-polyamory speech that goes on.
Can I say something that just occurred to me?
Sure, yeah.
Are incomplete souls children?
Huh.
Because Chick Beato is also an incomplete soul, and she acts like a child.
Oh, wow.
Yes, Chick Beatrice is on the list, yeah.
Maria would be an incomplete soul. Kanon and Shannon, technically children, could be incomplete souls. I don't know.
I think there's a case to be made for that.
Yeah.
I could see where you're coming from, but I, just in the context of the narrative, haven't seen enough of talk about children to adulthood for me to feel like that has to be the theme. If that were to be a bigger theme through the past 6 episodes, I would absolutely...
That is an excellent mystery perspective, because that is absolutely the kind of thing that is very valuable, right? If there's not a hint for that, if there are not sufficient clues, that may not be the direction the story is going. So
I think what's pinging to me about it is true love comes with maturity in a sense. It's all very vibes based. I'm in complete honesty, but that was what pinged for me.
I can see that because in the speech that Zephar or whichever one of them gives about can you love someone who's already married? Can you love members of your own family? Can you love a child? That's also that would be in the same kind of vein as that. So I think there is some textual something there to at least kind of get across that same idea.
We've also got Erica, who was a child and was in love, and that person supposedly cheated on her and such. So you right there have a minor who has love. But I guess if you want to take us up further in Becca's favor, that's why an incomplete soul shouldn't.
Or was that even true love if he betrayed her that way? Did she think it was, but it wasn't,
Because they're incomplete souls, yeah.
So
I like this.
Some other information we have about when they talk about incomplete souls and why furniture is not to love. Another time where they talk specifically about that is after the love duel, right? When Beatrice and Kanon's forms dissolve. Kanon meets up with Beatrice outside, and basically he's lamenting that, Jessica is now going to be left. He just vanishes from her life and she's left alone. And one thing she says is that is why furniture is not allowed to know love. That is his sin.
His sin is hurting Jessica.
Potentially.
Could Battler be furniture, and that's his sin?
Then they have to very much ask what does furniture mean in that case.
Brother, I don't know. I'm just saying shit and see what sticks.
Just seeing shit, see how I react to it. Yeah, that's fair.
Same though.
I mean, it makes sense.
I'm just trying to think of what other mentions of sin does this story have? It's not a lot.
Yeah, that is true. That is one of the very few times they mention sin. They mention Shannon and Kanon talk about their father's sin. Kanon's sin in regards to loving Jessica and leaving her, and then of course Battler's sin. Those are the 3 times that a sin is really brought up in the story. And maybe there's a connection there, maybe there isn't. I don't know.
Yes, you do.
I do know, but I'm not gonna say. You got me. I'm not,
Battler's sin is that he killed Asumu.
and that's interesting.
Yeah, think about it.
I still think that Battler's sin is that he asked for this, basically.
Interesting.
I don't mean that in like a victim blamey way. That sounded really horrible. I realized as it came out my mouth. But in a like
Ugh.
he
Yeah,
made
no,
an
I get
agreement with I think I said this when we were reading that bit, that he made some kind of an agreement and has forgotten about it. So
That could explain a lot of like
which I love.
the early dynamic between him and Beatrices. Like, I thought we were having fun here. You wanted this, right? Like, why are you acting this
Yeah.
way?
Yeah, the episode 3 Gambit kind of talks about that a bit. Well, we could talk about Battler and his sin in a second. I want to finish up some more talk about furniture real quick. So some of the things that they talk about in addition to that is that, as we talked about, there's a love duel, obviously. For some reason, only one of them can succeed, and the two of them are sacrificed, and that grants, in this case, Shannon, the soul of a human. And supposedly that is sufficient to make Shannon able to know love now. We also see that you talk about the Golden Land. The Golden Land is also a mechanism by which furniture can know love. But as Battler says, the Golden Land is not a place in this world, much like heaven or hell, I believe he says. So the question is, what is the Golden Land then? And why would it allow loves?
Couples therapy.
That is truly fantastical. Yeah, that doesn't exist in 1980s Japan.
Without couples therapy, it cannot be seen.
That's really tickle.
Sorry, I think I
Becca.
broke Hayley.
Oh, sorry. It's okay. That's just, man, that's great.
One of the lines our readers wanted us to talk about was when a lot of this is being talked about, Angie is talking to Featherine and about like, well, why can't they just, make this work? What is the difference here? And she says that love and marriage are different things, which is a very interesting statement.
Okay, yes. I was rereading once you verified those images that were spoilered in the chat. I did look at them and I was rereading those exchanges with Featherine, and I'm going to go look at them again because there was stuff. I don't know if I have any coherent thoughts about it, but it was really interesting to reread those.
Yeah. As I kind of said in that conversation, that like anything that's like weird and confusing is probably because it's a hint.
Yeah.
There's lots of stuff it's kind of hard to follow in this. So yeah, very interesting statement. Definitely makes sense in retrospect, but I don't blame Mel for not understanding what she's talking about there. But yes, we were going to talk about Battler. Let's talk about Battler. So Battler's interesting in this episode, right? He is now the game master. He has taken on Kenzo's cloak. He now resides in Kenzo's study as the master of this tale, all that jazz. And there's a few interesting things happening in the story related to him, right? So he's trying to revive Beatrice by using by reforming her as a incarnation of this world's rules. But when she reforms, she is now Chick Beatrice, who has lost all her memories, which is a choice. So interesting, within the context of knowing that this is a story that was written by Hajito Toya as part of like this episode 6 message bottle, it's an interesting framing device to use to tell this tale. So truly there's some meaning dwelling within that framing device, because we get a lot of interesting stuff between the relationship between Battler and Beatrice and how he's trying to push, this version of who Beatrice used to be onto her, and she can't accept that. And eventually he does come to kind of, accept her for who she actually is and allow her to be her own person. We get some really interesting stuff in terms of thinking about what was Battler's plan with this episode, right? So if we take a look back at the episode as a whole, it's obvious that Chick Beatrice was intended to be a part of it from the start. Like in the beginning when she appears, he says like, oh, don't think about that. That's not really important. That's not a part of the story, right? When she first appears and they're like, who is this? What's going on with Beatrice, right? But obviously she's meant to be a part of it because she's one of the, literally like a part of the love trial, the 6 people that like the story literally does not function if Chick Beatrice is not injected into the story. So that raises a question of how much of what we see in the story that is theoretically, supposed to be things that happen, are they actually intended to be part of Battler's plan? Did he intend for the logic error to happen as an attempt to force Beatrice to revive? Was the wedding a part of Battler's plan? How much of Erica's actions are a part of the structured narrative? There's a lot of really interesting questions you can have about that looking back on this episode, but that may be outside the scope of a short discussion.
Does it have to be a short discussion? Because, oh man. Battler, yes, because Battler's the game master of this episode. So all of the pieces' movements have been by his design. I think, Becca, you were talking about that when we saw that logic error come up, that you're hoping, I think you were talking about it in the context of wanting for Battler to not be incompetent, but that you're hoping that he has done this on purpose for some reason.
The red flags as I see them as to why he wouldn't have played this hand purposefully somehow are he knows, like we were talking about this at the top with literally like he gives Erica the duct tape.
Yep.
Right? He's like, fine, I'll let you have this much. He knows that she's going to use that on him. Like, he has to know that. He has just reached the golden truth in the previous episode. He has also been tricked by Beato how many times so far? And he's playing with all these fucking witches. Like, I have to believe at some point, if he's reached whatever golden truth territory lord status he's at this point, to then immediately make such a grievous error that he gets like locked inside his own mind for millennia. Without at least knowing that that's a possibility or seeing that as a very likely thing to happen. I don't think he's that stupid. I hope he's not.
And there's also some suspicious stuff that happens in regards to that logic error happening. I think I talked about this in the summary. There's a point where after the exchange of red and blues that happens that like implies that, someone would have to stay inside the room where the chain broke. And the entire point is that, well, someone could come rescue Battler. And then Erica reveals that she killed everyone. There's a moment right after that where Beatrice says, well, don't worry, there's 11 more people in the guest house that can come save him. And then Erica somehow goes, like, astral projects to the guest house and looks at the seals and says, look, these seals are still set. And that is not how that power has worked up to this point, right? Her ability is, she said in the previous episode, the seals don't actually stop anyone. She has to verify if they've been broken or not. And only when they are not broken does she know that no one has entered or exited. Somehow she's just able to see in a completely different area, those seals are still set. And also, another contradiction with that, when she first enters to Battler's room, she says she goes to check the seals. She stops and waits for Battler to say whether or not the seals are checked. She doesn't just say, I see the seals are set. She asks Battler, are you sure you want to do this? And Battler says the seals are intact, right?
Yeah.
So that implies that Battler has control over whether or not the seals are intact or not.
Yeah.
So those are two rule breaks that happen to make this logic error happen that I think are really interesting to think about.
I hadn't thought about them in the context of the rule breaks. I mean, because the rule breaks really irritated me at the time. But in the context of we had to have rule breaks in order for the logic error to happen. So thank you for pointing that out.
Because Battler could have, if he really wanted to, Battler could have said, oh, the seals are broken. Hideyoshi saved me. Right? If he really wanted to, he could do that.
Yeah.
So something tells me that he wanted to be in there. And it is funny too, right? Because you get those little bits and pieces. Like, it looks like he did start trying to chop himself up to take up Burncastle's offer of going down the drain or whatever. And it's like, okay, yeah, well, we've all seen Saw. Some people will self-mutilate to get somewhere a little bit.
I have not seen Saw, and I never will see Saw.
That's totally fine.
So
That was
valid.
mostly me being facetious, but
No, that's where I get scared. That's where I draw the line. All this killing in a visual novel, totally fine. Killing when it looks like they're real human beings, that scares me.
That film, man, that messed me up for like a week.
If they don't have anime hair, I'm not into it.
Yeah, exactly. If they're not Dr. Nanjo, I'm not into it. So, like...
yeah.
So yeah, I just wanted to bring up that little bit because it's something that I noticed that I think is just like, it's definitely something that I think has to be talked about. And it really shines a light on questioning the entire framework of this entire episode, right? Because like, if we say that like, okay, Battler planned to get into the logic error, well then presumably he planned to be rescued by Beatrice as a method of, as a part of telling a story. So was the wedding a part of his plan too? How much of this is planned then? Like where does it stop?
Right.
Oh my god.
I've got to look back to like the end of episode 3, or I guess the start of episode 4, one of the two, where he tells Beatrice, like, he's like, you've tricked me like this too many times. That's never going to work on me again.
Beginning of 4.
Yeah, and the whole time I'm like, I really want this to be the case. He didn't get fooled. It was all part of a plan that he actually had to trap them, right? But like, it kind of goes into Nox's a little bit where it's like, where is the hint of that? I guess what I just said could kind of be the hint, but it gets to a point where you as the reader have to trust the authenticity of the emotions being displayed on screen. Because if you can't, then it just sort of feels like I'm not reading an emotional story. I am waiting for the author to tell me the answer.
Yeah. And it's also, I bring this up in terms of like, this is an open question. I do not have a definitive answer here. I have a personal opinion on what I think happened. And based on later context, I think I can say with some evidence from the tale of exactly what level of
one way
meta
or the
was
other
happening here.
Yeah.
But like, one of the reasons why it's so contentious is because like, does any of this happen? Is any of this real then? Like, what is, are we supposed to connect with Battler and see he was trapped and was hurt. Was any of that real? Like, you don't want to. No, we want that to be the story, right? Because that's where the emotional struggle is happening. If it turns out that was all a part of some nefarious master plan and he was never in any trouble at all, like you kind of lose something, right?
Well, that's the other thing too, is it's not that he's not in trouble. It's that he's putting himself through hell to get to an outcome that he wants. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be easy or good for him. It's just a play, it's sorry, not to get all like relate it to another piece of media, but literally like the Avengers Endgame of there's literally one possibility where we succeed and it has to be this way. And that involves half the world disappearing for 5 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, doesn't mean it's a good option.
Doctor Strange flew through all the Kakera and found the one fragment out of 4 trillion that that Burn Castle brought to him. Yeah.
Where Battler gets Beato back. Yeah. But I think what the magic trick, pardon the phrase, that the VN does in telling you all of this information is that it is so easy. Like, we weren't even thinking about the fact that Battler had to make conscious choices to create that logic error, because when it is happening in the narrative of the story, it's so good at getting you to think of all of these scenarios in very specific ways that as he's making these decisions, you, the reader, almost feel backed into the corner with him and you only see 2 possible options. So when Erica is challenging him and being like, so are you going to do this? What's it going to be, buddy? Yes or no? He makes the decision that is probably going to trap him, but also like he's already doubled down on it too far. So it's the only choice he can make. So when you're seeing him walk into the trap, you're like, well, yeah, of course. Like, that's the only choice he can make. But there's something going on that we're just not able to see, that's the illusions, right? The party of illusions.
Yeah. Oh, Battler.
Yeah, so that's definitely a can of worms that I think we'll probably be coming back to. Once we finish the whole story, we can have this conversation again and be like, okay, what do we think actually happened here? And that's one of the interesting things about rereading it. That's one of the things that stuck out to me as a person rereading it that I think is also interesting to talk about for y'all as well. So I wanted to make sure we hit on that as a touchstone for this one.
Oh my God, this podcast is never going to end.
Yeah.
Is it? We're gonna finish this and then start it again and it's gonna be off meta plays again.
We got to do the manga.
That's the plan. The talking about what we're gonna do next, Homestuck, all ruses to make you think that
this is our time loop.
Yeah,
this is our Rokkenjiima, guys. We're stuck in this podcast.
Yeah, it's gonna start Umineko podcast episode 2. Big E, Big P.
You guys have to watch me and Ben play the fighting game, right? Because I know you two said you had no interest in playing it. We gotta watch the anime. We gotta watch the theater production.
Yeah, the theater productions are supposed to be good. This is gonna be our whole life.
No, I just mean that we're gonna do literally this again. Reread the VN and do a podcast about rereading the VN rather than the introduction of Kyle, like Kyle's introduction to us of this VN. It's just gonna be, oh well, now we're all here. Let's reread it.
Okay, but real talk.
Spoilers.
That sounds kind of cool, actually.
All right. Oh man.
Okay, I hope you're all free for the next 4 years.
We could do that in just like 6 or 12 episodes. Like we could.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, actually doing a reread would be a lot faster. Because like, what takes the most time is the preparation on my end, right? I have to do a lot of summarizing and a lot of that stuff, and then the editing. And I think we absolutely could do some look back on stuff if people are willing to do us any future rereading, or maybe we're doing it the manga. These are all options. We'll get to that eventually. So, all right. But I wanted to say, so we're talking about Battler, right? That's the reason why we got to this conversation topic. So there's several other really interesting topics of conversation about Battler in this episode. We've talked a bit about Battler's relationship with Chick Beatrice and what all that can mean, how she calls him father. There's a bunch of stuff to read into that. But I wanted to talk a bit about your theory, Capelli. You mentioned earlier talking about some potential stuff to do with Shannon. There is some Battler and Shannon textual evidence that comes up in this episode, right? We get,
even previously,
part of Shannon and George talking in the gazebo, right? Where George says that like one of the reasons why he got together with Shannon was because he was jealous of the closeness between Battler and Shannon all that time ago, and that kind of inspired him to want to, become someone that Shannon would love. We also have some other interesting questions that happen in this episode. When Battler is saved from the closed room by Kanon, he says, "Go back quickly. There is someone fighting in your place, and there is someone awaiting your return. Will you do it again? Not come back?" Which I think is a very interesting phrase, because it seems to very much strike Battler and make him agree to leave Kanon and return. And of course, we also see Battler in the flashback that happens when Beatrice loses the love battle, and she like has a weird flashback after she dissolves, where we see what seems to be like a childlike Battler. It might be the same sprite that was used in the conversation between Jordan and Shannon, actually, because that's economical.
We flash back to a young Battler talking about how much he likes large bazingas.
Yes, and blonde woman with blue eyes describing his perfect girlfriend. For some reason, that is something that happened. That is the flashback when Beatrice dissolves. That's what is apparently is important to show right at that moment. And then we cut from that to someone else. It seems saying that entire flashback is there's so much in there, talking about how like I will no longer be you, you will no longer be me. We'll have numerous dreams. A bunch of stuff about a split of some sort, which I think is very interesting and definitely something that I think is critical for understanding what is happening in the story.
Spoilers. I mean, really, the only theory I could even fathom is that Shannon and Kanon combined make Beato, and I couldn't even work through the logistics of how that could feasibly work.
It's such a big claim. You'd really have to commit to like, okay, we have now decided what the theory is. We will now go back and look at everything with that lens exclusively to see if it makes any fucking sense.
I'm with you on that, though.
Because it would require, like, the logistics of that would be wild.
And that's the thing, though, is like it is entirely vibes based, but I'm with you on that because I'm at a loss for anything else beyond that.
Yeah, the only way it works is the Sherlock Holmes. Like, if everything else is impossible, then the improbable is what is possible. Like, or however that goes, you know.
Whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth.
Yeah, but it is so much of the story is so niche. Like the answer is also going to be pretty niche. Like it's just so hard to calculate for every possibility. I would love to get like a renowned mystery author to read through the story and go through with this level of detail and see what they pick up on.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I watched a few people play through the game, their own like read throughs and followed along, similar to how people are doing now with us. And it is very interesting to hear different people speculate on what's happening in the story and come to different theories at different times based on different information.
Like that one spoiler that Hayley and I clicked on, this person who supposedly figured this one thing out at the end of episode 4, and I'm like, I would have to like watch that playthrough myself to believe it.
Yeah, that one was interesting. That playthrough, their reasoning for coming to that conclusion was very vibes based. That person in particular is just kind of good at picking up meta narrative structure.
Well, I guess that's exactly what I just asked for, isn't it?
Yeah.
As someone who also operates on vibes-based theorizing, I salute you.
I'm like even more into it now and would consider watching that just because it's vibes-based only.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
I love going back and watching people react to stories and things that I love, right? Like one of my favorite things is to go back and watch people play Outer Wilds for the first time.
Oh, yeah. Great game.
Yeah.
And like just watching people make connections using the environmental storytelling to like figure shit out is like, this is the closest I'm ever going to get to playing this game with fresh eyes ever again.
That's how I'm currently feeling about Blueprints.
Yeah, that's also a great one.
I want to see somebody play Blueprints with zero context of what it is and just see what they get before like I give them any hints or anything, because it's definitely a game that deserves hints.
Yeah.
But only once you reach a certain point.
Northern Lion is a great streamer YouTuber to watch for that. I love NL. Anyway, back to Battler.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know how he gets out. I don't know who Kanon's talking about specifically, like, because so much of it is like layered meta. He's talking about Beatrice. So is Kanon talking about the mastermind? And then if it's like, how is the mastermind then fighting for him on that, in that sense, if we're not talking about the wedding and Beato chick Beatrice like coming into her own, being worthy of the Watashi pronoun.
Dwarawa, yeah.
The Warawa.
It is weird that like
leaving Watashi behind and moving into Warawa.
Yeah. I think we also get some interesting pronoun usage in the end of episode 4 when Beatrice is like breaking down, and like there's like several statements that she makes in red around then, possibly with the fragments of red that we get at the end. I think also use some interesting pronouns as well.
Yeah, that is sadly one thing that is just not going to come through nearly as well on an English translation.
Yep, it is tough for sure. The translation does try to at least give you like in parentheses, they're using this pronoun, but like there's so much context that you just have to.
Yeah.
A Japanese person would immediately like, oh, well, that means this, and then there's so much things you would then just inherently kind of interpret from that and provide meaning, whereas that's just completely lost in a translation. It is the nature of the beast.
To have a language that has some real depth to it.
All right, let's see. What other topic would we like to discuss?
We talked about the furniture. I didn't really say much during that, but I wish I did. Just to say that I clued into that like on episode 2. Furniture aren't people. They don't
Yeah,
count
you
as,
did.
as people in the red text.
Mhm.
If that ends up being true, I'll be mad because it's like again, where was the hint for that? You know what I mean?
No, that is not what they're going for.
Capelli,
Eh,
that was your vibes based.
I mean, looking back at like a lot of the stuff that's come to fruition, I'm very happy with the amount that I either got right or like was definitely on the right track.
Yeah. I think everyone's had really interesting theories that have been surprisingly close to things.
I love to say that and then ignore all the shit that I got way wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah.
I don't think that you got anything wrong, Capelli. I think it
No,
was
yeah, you're
all
100%
right.
correct. Yeah.
I know what I want to talk about next.
Sci-fi.
I want to talk about the man from 19 years ago.
Yes, I was going to go there as well.
It's a very interesting topic for this one.
Let's talk about the number 19 and then move on to it because I feel like
Okay,
that's going
yeah.
to segue.
Because that's kind of how we get to the man from 19 years ago is in this episode, the number 19 is brought up as a motif. When Shannon and Kanon are standing back to back in their duel, Zephyr and Furfur say that they will take 19 steps because 19 is an important number in this tale. And they give a couple of examples of what that means. Probably the biggest one that makes people go, wait, what? The true age of the territory lord of this world is 19. It's the number of years that it took to reach this unavoidable day. The number of years needed to create this tale. It's the number used to refer to the witch as the 19th person when only 18 people were supposed to be on the island. But yeah, the territory lord being 19 is something that is just dropped in here, and it is quite an interesting piece of information. Because previously, there's the speculations about, Battler, other Battler, but based on the timeline, both those people would be 18, theoretically born on the same day.
Mhm.
Could there be some fudging there? Maybe, but you would have to make a serious case for why that would be the case.
Again, where's the real hint for this sort of a thing? Yeah.
Exactly. But we do have someone who is definitely associated with number 19, and that is the man from 19 years ago. That, of course, plays a predominant role in the previous game. That's when they're introduced. And that person, they show up in episode 5 through the phone lines, tormenting Natsuhi, claiming to be the baby that she rejected and pushed a servant carrying them over a cliff 19 years ago. Bad year for cliffs, because apparently that is also the same year that Beatrice from Codorian died falling off a cliff. So
Bad year for clips.
And also potentially, oh my god, his name is gone. Amakusa.
Yeah.
Amakusa, yes.
Amakusa is my top pick for the man from 19 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's such an interesting question because Amakusa doesn't show up until episode 4, right?
4, yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, if someone has a
Well, the persona
yeah,
of Amakusa shows up then.
yeah, you would say that Amakusa reappears under a new name in episode 4.
Right.
You could claim.
He's got to be. He's got to be a battler.
Well, my original theory was that Amakusa is older Kanon. But if Kanon and Shannon are the same, Kanon dies, so Shannon could live, gets off the island somehow. I don't know. But that's my theory because it makes sense with Eva trying to keep Angie away from him. And it's just
Although in episode 3, which is theoretically the timeline that is speculated to lead to the present day that we see, both Shannon and Kanon are listed as dead in the big red web.
But in the same way that if Shannon and Kanon are the same person and one of them dies in red but the other one doesn't, but that one's still walking around, who's to say that it's not just another fucking personality or something?
I mean, something like that would be implied.
Oh, I don't like the way you made that sound. Ooh, Capelli's onto something, or my friend is just really pulling. It was really reaching here.
Why not both?
I will legitimately say, if we are to believe that Shannon and Kanon are the same person, and we are to believe that Kanon can die in red and Shannon can be walking around and vice versa, then why not, right?
Yeah.
What does that mean for the statement that Kanon is dead? What is that would have to be something we'd have to really, drill down on. What does it mean to die? Why can you say that in red?
Man, what I would love to know, Kyle. I would love to know what it means to die.
You become furniture.
You're completely eliminating a personality from your psyche in order to achieve your goals.
Sure. I think that's a valid reasoning.
If one of them never shows up again within the narrative of a given episode and that timeline's future, you could rationally say that character, that name is dead.
Yeah, because there's a lot of talk in this game about what it means to be a person. That's a really big theme in this episode, right? In fact, the story literally stops and the author looks to the camera and says, a person can become multiple people depending on how they grow up, right? And there's lots of other things that kind of talk about similar things along those lines. Way back in episode 2, when Jessica is talking to Kanon and she's like, oh, while I'm on the island, I am Jessica, but when I'm off the island
Yeah.
at school, I am Jesse. I have created this other person inside of myself. Hey, Kanon, you should do that too. You should create another person inside yourself to
Oh, wow. That's very good. I didn't think about that.
Did Kanon incept that idea
God
into her?
damn it!
Oh, that's good. I
Yeah,
never thought about that.
indeed.
Man,
Such are the details that you can remember if you if you read this story very recently.
You too can read the story 5 to 10 times over.
Yep.
Amazing.
That's the kind of hints that you could theoretically find if you go back and read some of the stuff.
I love that stupid joke. Bad year for cliffs.
Yeah, I was proud of that one.
I've been thinking about that. And I think it's a really good year for cliffs, depending on the kind of cliff you are.
Okay.
Depends on how you invested in cliffs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
My Polymarket said cliffs would stay intact. I'm financially ruined.
Beatrices 22 made a killing on bets related to cliffs.
Anyway, the only other thing that I can connect with Shannon Kanon being Amakusa / 19 years ago person would be that this family tried to use them for their own familial rearing and then tried to kill them. And then they want to avenge Battler or save Battler from it, or maybe because of the fact that he understood the terrible things, that, like the unacceptable things they were doing, and tried to step away from it. And then Shannon liked him. I don't know. It feels like there could be something in there.
I think you're not far off.
Would you say, Kyle, looking back, like the Whydunit is sufficiently hinted at?
I would say that's probably one of the more contentious things about the story. I think the Whydunit is
Okay.
is one of the thinnest parts. I think most people figure out the Whydunit because they figure out the Whodunit and then look backwards.
Okay.
yeah,
Interesting.
I could see that.
It is definitely the hardest thing to figure out.
Harder than the Epitaph?
I mean, the Epitaph's not a real thing. Like, the Epitaph's an ARG that, like, you can,
How dare
no
you?
individual should try and solve.
How
I love
dare
that. I love that. Thank you.
For the readers at home, I put together a document for Hayley that is a kind of like a guided with hints kind of process so that she can take a serious crack at the Epitaph and get, like, actually have a chance of solving it. So it's got like a
It's,
kind of a framing of like, here's a first major question, here's like, and then like stages of potential hints that you can use to try and get through it. So I think there's a good chance that Hayley will have a good shot at solving it.
There is a poll. I don't know if it probably won't be open by the time this episode goes live, but I'm curious to see
Let's see how long it takes me to edit this one. Yeah.
who is in my corner. I might actually extend the date on it. We'll see. Maybe I'll
Okay,
post it again. Oh man, I don't.
Now that they've gotten the inside information that you've been given hints.
Yeah,
Because you need them.
Yeah,
Like, it is silly.
I do.
Like, okay, so let's talk about the Epitaph real quick. Because like episode 7,
Yeah.
the solution to the Epitaph does appear. It appears probably a few episodes in terms of our like what we're going to be reading and recording. Like maybe episode 3, the answer to the Epitaph is going to be given. And what's crazy is that like one of the most important hints to solving the Epitaph is given right before they solve it. Like information that is really makes it nigh impossible to solve without knowing that is not revealed until like just before they give you the entire rest of the solution.
Oh my fucking god, that's the bit I'm missing, basically, right?
Basically, yeah, it's one of the most important bits.
Because I feel like every time, I feel like there's just like,
It's where Kenzo's beloved hometown is. Yeah.
yes, like with that, I think I could
Yeah.
get it. Like, we've had deep conversations.
So in that document, I've compiled all the evidence that the story gives you. The story does give you some evidence of what it is, but even at best, you have like 5 things that could be the answer. That you just have to pick one, and it's like, how do you know that's correct? Well, you go and then find the Sweet Fish River. like that's the only way to verify that you're correct is to solve the rest of the Epitaph, basically. So yeah, it's unfair.
Yeah, and that's literally, I've done that like 3 or 4 times, I think, with you, Kyle, at this point,
Mhm.
and been like, okay. And I've spent hours reading Wikipedia on Japanese war history to see what Kinzo might have been doing at that time and where he could
Jesus
possibly
Christ,
have been.
Hayley.
And I know,
Mhm.
and I really have much better things to do with my time. And I've actually like been scouring Google Maps and looking at what rivers are where, and then like looking up are
Oh,
sweet fish
no.
like native to these rivers. Like, for real, I've spent so much time on this. It's actually disgusting to myself.
I mean, that's like legitimately what you have to do. Like those, like all those things you just listed are like, yeah, those are steps towards solving the Epitaph, 100%.
I am genuinely in awe. Like, I think it's really admirable. And I applaud you
It's
for
stupid,
doing it.
Becca.
No, it's not stupid. It's really cool that you put this much effort in. And like, if this literally wasn't written to be the most convoluted, annoying mystery possible, I feel like you would have gotten it by now. But
Mhm. And it is. It's literally designed to be impossible, and intentionally, right? Like in the story, it's meaningful that it's like stupid hard to solve. It's like you're not supposed to be able to solve it. That's like the entire premise of the
Yeah.
Epitaph. It's like so, and that's going to be something that gets examined more as we get further into the story. Exactly, like what is like why this Epitaph? What is the purpose of it, and what does it mean? That's all stuff that's going to get a lot more.
It's to get you to the Golden Land, which is where the gold is stored, which is a safe bunker from this explosion.
It's very
And so it has to be difficult
yeah.
because, like, it wasn't designed for anybody to survive it, really, because it was about the elimination of the Ushiramias.
Yeah, I mean, Beatrice literally says, "Hey, if you solve the Epitaph, I'll stop killing everybody." Like that is part of the bargain. Yeah.
One way to stop killing everybody is to just explode them all.
Yeah. Well,
No, actually, no, Hayley, I never even like you just kind of blew my mind with it's a bunker to survive the explosion, considering apparently we only just got the confirmation of explosion tonight. But also, like we do know canonically it is super underground and that it's in a shockingly nice room, even though they had to go through like dank stairs to get there. Like
Yep.
it has all the hallmarks of a literal bunker.
Yeah.
And if we think about how Kinzo survived getting this fortune in the first place, it was by living through a natural disaster, which you do in a bunker. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say those stairs are extremely dank. Very cool stairs.
Yeah.
So dank
are.
and dark and slimy and cold. Just also like the concept of like you being the one to find the gold means like you're sealing the death of all the rest of your family. Something about that tickles my brain and I like it a lot. But
okay.
Yeah, in like a horrifying way, right?
yeah.
No, I mean these topics are conversation seeds. They're meant to evoke you to think about the story and come up with things that you think that are interesting. That's what we're here for.
It is a real devil's bargain.
Okay, I think that's most of the stuff I wanted to talk about. I think the only one that I wanted to bring up is the gold truth. So we've had 2 examples of the gold truth.
2.
I hope you found that sufficient.
Nope.
Because I will tell you,
No more?
there's no more. Not in the VM.
What? Are you for real? What the? Did somebody tell you to tell us this today? Because I want to murder that person.
No, I've been thinking about telling Elf this for a while because I think it's very funny.
So the gold truth just trust me, bro? Like, is that what the gold truth is?
Just trust me.
That's a fair guess, yeah.
I'm the territory lord. So is it literally like
I'm so
I'm
mad.
the territory lord, so you just have to trust me, and that's why this is gold, and I get to say it?
I'm so
Because
mad.
Who uses it the second time?
Kyle's just
Elder Beatrice uses it to say that Beato's candy magic trick was in fact magic. It was brilliant magic.
What does that even mean? I'm so mad.
If I could go back 2 years ago,
Yeah, I remember we got the second one, and then
convince myself
I was like, well, there's only 2. You can really only theorize once you have 3, because 2 points is a coincidence, 3 points makes a line. And I was
say
like,
no
yeah, that's gonna be rough when you never get that fucking 3rd point.
to signing up for this goddamn podcast myself.
Why am I here?
2 points makes a line, 3 points makes a plane.
Yeah, okay.
Any three points can make a circle.
Ooh, interesting.
You wanna try that one again, buddy?
A circle can go through any 3 points. You can always draw a circle such that it goes through any 3 non-linear points. That is a true math
It's a fun little math fact.
Have fun.
Okay.
3-dimensional. You gotta think in 3
Anyway.
dimensions.
But yeah, that's basically Balor uses it to guarantee that Kinzo's corpse is Kinzo's corpse, despite having no proof, and Elder Beato uses it to say that Chick Beatrice did magic when she did the candy trick.
But we
So-
haven't had a gold truth defined, so why should we
Nope.
even give a fuck?
I mean, it's interesting, I guess. I mean, it's not to say that we won't have more things kind of talking about it, but we never get an explicit use of the gold truth in text for the rest of the VN.
I wonder if it's just a way of like, because we talk about the cat box, right? Cat box implying multiple possibilities of something are true until you open the box and look inside.
Sure.
Could the gold truth just be this is what I'm saying is true when the box is opened, because otherwise there's literally no way to know, because there's no evidence to confirm or deny any other possibility.
That somewhat fits both of the examples given, I think.
That's all the data I'm going off of is those 2 examples.
Yeah, I mean, it was like,
So- But that is what just occurred to me is like the only thing I can possibly think of is, and also the nature of it being gold. Do we get the literal restriction that it can only be used by the territory lord?
I
Don't
believe
answer that. Don't answer that. Don't answer that. I don't want to answer that.
I'm trying to remember what they actually said in the
I
text.
feel like this is context we've gotten. That's why I'm asking. But you can say if we haven't been told that, that's fine. But that was the impression that I had, is that gold can only be used by the territory lord, or at least someone who has reached the truth of the world and thus has the power to be the territory lord.
Someone who knows the truth, I think, fits much better.
And to like put it in game mechanic terms, if you're talking about the architect of whatever game they're playing on, it's like a DM making a call, right? Like there's no written rule to confirm or deny whatever possibility is being discussed. So the game master has to make a call, and that's the gold truth. They are opening the cat box to decide one way or the other.
But that means that Battler used that to like basically put a stop to a mystery of Kinzel's body at the end of episode 5. That feels like that flies in the face of what the whole point of the game board for episode 5 was.
I feel like that would be true if we didn't get the further red truth that there are only 17 people on the island a whole episode later.
But yeah, I wanted to bring this up because like this is the gold truth is one of those things that like because there's only those 2 examples. It's a thing that a lot of people don't really understand what it means, even going on like further into the story. It's not something we're gonna necessarily get a lot of information about. So something to keep in mind that you will have to be piecing that together as you read if you want to try and come up with a better idea of what that meant.
Or we could just ignore it.
Yeah, ultimately, I'm with Hayley. If it never comes up again, it's just a red herring. It's nothing that we really need to super figure out because it's a distraction from everything else.
More like a gold herring.
Hey.
You don't need to super figure out, but there is meaning there. There's interesting meaning there.
Yeah, no,
interesting thematic meaning.
I don't
It's
like
got the
it.
wheels turning for sure.
I don't like it.
Oh my god.
If I'm very curious if anybody has any other explanations because I just don't see any, and I would like to know more. But damn.
My only issue with that is like how much of this game could be solved if all you say is, well, that's just a red.
Only if you say it in red or in gold.
No. Here's the thing. I'm not saying it's just a red herring. I'm just saying in terms of all of the, it's like a side mystery. It's like its own
Yeah,
thing.
like it is not it's not critical to enjoying the rest of the story.
It's not a prerequisite to solve everything else, is what
Correct.
I mean.
Yeah. It is a very interesting little side thing that I think is worth thinking about. But I wanted to let you know because if you are holding out for more information, you are not going to get more information really. So
Unreal. I mean, well, I suppose I shouldn't be surprised at all. Every time I spend any time thinking deeply about this, I end up just like wanting to. I mean, I can't physically throw it in the sea because then I would be throwing away an expensive bit of technology that I use for other things. But like, I just
burn
want
it to a disc
throw
and
it.
then throw that.
Yeah.
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 You can go find one of the rare physical copies of this game and put it in a message bottle and throw it to sea.
You know, every time I walk past a store that could potentially sell it, like secondhand kind of like Japanese media, that
I'm going to pirate the anime and burn it to a DVD and chuck the DVD into the sea.
Yeah, that's fair. The anime deserves that.
Yeah, like every time I walk past a book off, I'm like looking to see if they happen to have it.
So yeah, I think that's most of the stuff I wanted to talk about. I think we've kind of hit on all the major themes and open questions. So before we wrap up, I want to just go for each of you. I want a whodunit. I want a whydunit for them, and then if you have any particular howdunits, I would love to do that as well. But I want everyone to say if you have to pick person or persons, whodunit.
This is what I should have saved my KKK joke for.
No, it was very funny. It was very good.
Say it again right now, and we'll all act shocked and surprised.
Yeah, we'll just cut it into here. Yeah.
Kyle will just edit it. Yeah, he'll just put it here,
You
and
just
we'll all go,
cut it in here.
oh.
It's fine.
To be fair, if you say it again, I'll still be shocked. It was a wild thing to say. It was
And
so
that won't
good.
even be acting. That's genuine.
It's yeah, it is. But like, I'll kick it off and say, like, genuinely, seriously, I don't have basis for it, but this is vibes. I really do think,
Sure.
and I've said this from the beginning, Kumasawa. I have leaned more towards Kanon and Kyrie through episode 6 and what's been revealed through that. I actually do think it could plausibly involve those three, with maybe Kyrie as the mastermind behind it all. But I don't like that. But I do like that just because of like the context of these two massively wealthy families and one family trying to take out the other family. But like I say, no real basis or founding other than vibes and possibly like them subconsciously picking up on things. The Whydunit, something related to cruel treatment of other people. and this is some kind of revenge
Okay.
for that. Would be my why. My how? Don't know. Don't care.
That is more than fair.
I already kind of gave mine. Shannon Cannon, obviously involved. I suspect the entirety of the staff, including Goda, even, I think.
Yeah, Godo's a kind of an interesting one to think about if he's included in that or not. He definitely seems to be, of the ones that he might not be involved, it would be
Well,
Goda.
but the whole thing, like in episode 6, when the first time the first Twilight happens, she's just like, yeah, this guy, there's something off about this guy. Like, he's the first person who would find a body and it'd be lying about it.
Right.
And clearly he is, because they did this whole thing like to pull the wool over her eyes. But it's just like, okay, well, Goda has acting chops, which is what I was going to mention when we were talking earlier on about like if everyone's just a great actor within the story and the reader has no way, it's like, what's the point? But
yeah, it is an interesting question of if the adults are acting or if they're also being tricked or not.
Right.
It's hard to say.
Right. But like, I mean, it almost has to be that amount of people in on it just to make the wolves and sheep puzzle work. Mastermind, I'm gonna say Shannon / Kyrie. Again, I'm only leaning towards Kyrie because Hayley has brought up some good and interesting points. Nanjo is also a distinct possibility as a mastermind,
Oh, interesting.
referencing back to the opening scene of the game with him in the study with Kinzo playing chess. And it's just like, all right, why are you holding up this ruse if you know this person doesn't exist and there's only other person in this room is Genji, and all three of you would know, well, like two of you would know this man is dead. I don't know. It's just it's weird. You've got references to his children and
Mhm.
Kumasawa's children and the guy. Where did Angie see the fucking doll? Maria's
Sakataro.
furniture. Sakatoro. Where was that thing?
It was in the ferryman's, like his bedding store underneath his where he lives.
Yeah. So who the hell is this guy? Like, right? Just like, and how did he get it? I don't know. Like,
Apparently, there's a whole bag of them.
that's very sad. Yeah. So that, yeah. So why done it? Revenge, I think, is also the motive, or like some sort of justified means to put an end to cruelty. And I really hope it's more than just greed for the Shiramiya's gold. How done it?
Okay.
I mean, you've got 5 people running around working on this thing, and 2 of them are interchangeable to have a mechanic that can dupe the red text.
Yeah.
Duel.
Yeah, if your suspect list is that long, if you just like go back and look at like all the murders and say like, well, how many of those people are involved in this? Like,
Right.
You'll be like, wait a minute.
The things that like really, really hold into this mystery are like episode 1 is Shannon's body, right? Why would Hideyoshi go along with what Kanon wanted?
It's an interesting question.
Episode 2 would be either like what everybody saw when Kanon came back to, attack, and when they investigate Jessica's body and Nanjo finds a key on her corpse, like I clued into that immediately. I'm like, nah, this is classic mystery misdirection. Episode 3 was obviously Nanjo's death.
Yeah.
And if you look into this whole, okay, there's another person / identity of Shannon Kanon, and then that person becomes Amakusa, which I think we actually joked about. It was Amakusa at one point within episode 4, and if that does come back around, that'd be amazing. And then episode 4 is Battler Sin. Like, if you can solve those 4 things, I think you've got a good idea of the how done it. And I think I have rationales for most of them, except for Battler Sin, which I just like his past and everything. I just don't have. I have like concepts of an idea.
Yeah, and that's kind of where you'd have to be on that kind of thing. It's like it would be. It's a lot to sew together for.
Yeah.
That is all solid.
Yeah, I like that, Capelli, and I just want to expand on what I was saying. I'm not limiting it to those 3. I just think that those 3 are definitely involved.
I gotcha.
I do think there is more to it than that. I do think, like you said, it requires a minimum of 5 people to be able to make it work.
The only reason I'm not convinced on Kyrie is how she laid a trap in episode 3 to confront Hideyoshi when they went to the manor. If she's a mastermind, like it would have to be Eva completely usurping the plot, the scheme, because she solved the epitaph.
I mean, to be fair, that is literally the meta plot of that episode, is that Eva usurps the entire plot of the...
Well, so I think my theory, my completely vibes-based theory that I've just come up in the in the past 5 minutes because Kyle's making us, and I wanted it to be different from what other people were saying. So I was like, who can I pick? So I think,
Like you're deciding who to main in Super Smash Bros. Like, well, somebody
yeah,
already
yeah,
plays
yeah.
Fox, so I really can't play
Somebody
Fox.
picked Ganondorf, somebody picked Peach already.
Those are great mains, by the way. Thank you.
This touches on a couple of the things you just brought up, Capelli. I think who did it is Kinzo, posthumously. How? With all of his servants acting on his behalf on orders he gave them before he actually died. I do think the scene that we see at the very, very beginning of the VN where he is playing chess with Nanjo is real and a flashback. I think that also part of why he hates his children. He genuinely wants Beato to be resurrected because he's crazy. He thinks that if any of his children are smart enough to solve the Epitaph and survive, they will be the only person deserving of it. So he gives them a puzzle. And in the meantime, the rest of them are going to get killed off systematically until someone figures it out. Yeah. I don't know. There we go. But like I do think like all of the furniture, quote unquote furniture servants would be in on it with him. So we're talking Genji, Kumasawa, Shannon, Kanon. Does Goda count in that instance? I don't think so.
Goda was hired by Natsuhi. He's kind of separate from the rest.
Right.
You could take him or leave him, really.
Nanjo was the fifth one I was thinking of because Nanjo's his friend.
Mm.
Nanjo and Kumasawa get those settlements, their families get their settlements after they die. So they did some kind of service. So I don't think it would be a far stretch. And that also explains why they all die at different times in every iteration. Yeah.
Right.
So I think they all go into serving whatever is going to play out on this island, knowing that they are not supposed to survive because whoever finds the gold is going to be the only person who survives the explosion anyway. So, yeah.
I mean, and that's also kind of backed up by the money that gets sent to their family afterwards.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's key. I really think that matters. I think that's really key. I do think that Amakusa has more in this than is suggested so far. I do wonder if he's somehow related to Kinzo. I don't know. I mean, that's still my two battlers thing. Kinzo could well. I like this Becca as well, as him being the mastermind behind it all, and the rest of them are the ones that we suggested are just.
I do still also like Kyrie as a possibility of being involved because I do think there's something to her being on the outside looking in for so long until Asumu died and having like a mafia family. I mean, maybe that is just only relevant to Angie's story, but I
quite the red herring if the case, yeah.
like the idea of the Yakuza being involved. Anyway.
Yeah, I like it on one level, and yeah, I think for this story, I don't like it, if that makes sense.
Okay, that's fair.
That's also very fair.
Like, I like it as a concept for a story. As like, tell me a different story, not this one specifically with that.
That's true.
Yeah.
I did also just land on Kinzo because I was like, that's the K that Hayley said it wasn't. But then I actually kind of convinced myself a little bit. Like, I actually do think this theory could potentially hold water, but it would require a lot of fact checking that I don't have the energy for.
All right. Ben, did you have anything else you wanted to?
I mean, I've kind of explained I think that it's Kyrie with a mixture of Shannon, Kanon, hybrid human being, plus Genji. I used to think it wasn't Shannon and Kanon, but there's so much pointing to the two of them with how much their stories have mattered through this entire thing that, like, their stories matter a lot more than Kumasawa, Nanjo, Goda. Like, they get so much more focus that I think that they have to be part of the solution in some way. I think Genji is just the hands of Kinzo, and Kinzo's will is still being enacted here. I think Kyrie could be, I think it's either Kyrie or there is some character or characters or personality or personalities that are Beatrice.
Okay.
I think Beatrice matters and exists, like they were stressing in episode 1. And Beatrice is the one causing this. And the Whydunit is something that Battler wanted 6 years ago. What was it?
Sure, yeah, 6 years ago.
And this combination of Beatri,
The Beatrinity.
the Beatrinity, thank you, Mother, Daughter, and Holy Ghost. So when we get those three together, they are somehow they're trying to enact something within Battler. This is all for Battler, and we've been told about this, and there is somebody that is obsessed with him. So I think that there is something happening such that this is all for Battler. Somehow then ends up with an explosion. I think that the explosion is a little bit disconnected from the murders for some reason. I don't know why, but I could see that there are two different plot lines going on right now. One where the island was set to explode on a certain day, and the only place safe was Kumadorian, and that's how Ava survived in episode 3.
Mhm.
And then also there are murders happening at the same time, meaning that it's almost impossible to figure out what actually happened because any evidence that we would have gotten was blown up.
Wait, this is amazing.
Yes, I think the murders are only experienced by the people who are on the island, and then the rest of the world is just like they all exploded.
Yes, but I think that there were still murders that happened, but we just don't know what
Mm,
happened because
okay,
I
fair.
think that there is some sort of.
The outside world knows of them through the message bottles, theoretically, right?
Yes.
True.
And I think the message bottles were left by a combination of like a Maria-esque figure, like, and I don't know what that means, so ask me to elaborate. I won't. Uh, or the Beatrice-esque trinity that could still leave them because they also survived. Maybe in a different part of Kumadorian, such that Ava did not see in episode 3. But that is where my brain goes, and I'm going to now call on Capelli to answer.
I mean, what you're describing is just Schrodinger's box.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. That it's Schrodinger's cat box that
Yeah.
Kyle mentions at the beginning of every podcast. So the witch's cat box. But I think that there is evidence to suggest that murders took place because of the message bottles. If the message bottles didn't exist, the murders didn't actually happen, and everyone just blew up on the island except for Ava, where the real timeline fragments, blah blah blah. Episode 3 is in my like head the canonical timeline of what happened. And everything else is derived from that due to the message bottles, which the first two message bottles that are talked about in episode 3 mention Ava dying. So, what does that mean? Does that person that wrote them not know that Ava didn't die and is actually still alive?
Something to think about.
So the third message bottle is just Eva's If I Did It by OJ. But she set up 2 prior books to discredit the confession.
Yes, I think you're right. That makes sense. I think we close the case.
I think I'm back on board with Eva didn't do it in episode 3.
Interesting. Okay.
I think Ava did it. I think Rosa did it episode 2. But I think that they were both fueled by a Beatrice trinity that I don't understand. I'm not religious, sorry.
I also just want to clarify in terms of talking about like an explosion that goes off. In theory, if the explosion happens in every timeline, that doesn't preclude the message bottle from getting off the island every time as well. So, like, in my mind, both things are happening. Like, all of the murders occur and the explosion happens, and people find out about the murders after the fact because of whatever message bottles survive. And also, there are scenarios where no one ever solves the epitaph. I don't know. Does the explosion still go off? I don't know. Is it timed? Is it only if somebody finds the bunker? Does it always happen even if nobody finds the bunker because then nobody was worthy of the gold? Questions I don't have answers to yet.
Even in the timeline where Ava solves the epitaph and like people stop dying in our story, the only person to survive is Ava. The rest of them still died, even probably by an explosion. So that means that the murders technically stopped once the gold was found, but the bomb or whatever was there still went off and killed everyone but Ava because she found the gold and because she knew how to hide from the bomb. Because otherwise, why would no one else have hidden from the bomb in any of the other stories?
Yep.
And like we don't see technically the end of the last 2, I don't think.
Right. Yeah.
Technically in 5 or 6, but we see the
Yeah.
ends of 1, 2, and 4. And when the seagulls cried, no one was left alive.
Yeah. My point being that I don't think the murders and the explosion are mutually exclusive. Is all I
When
mean.
you say
Right, right.
mutually
But yeah.
exclusive, do you mean like that they are on 2 different tracks, or they are?
I'm saying they're not mutually exclusive, as in they can both happen in every iteration.
Yes, I agree that they
Yeah.
can both happen. I'm saying that
Cool.
they're both happening in each iteration,
Yes. Okay. Same page then.
but they're caused by 2 different things that are
Yeah.
happening simultaneously
Okay,
on 2
okay.
different tracks.
Okay. Yes. Then we're on the same page. I
Yeah.
was concerned that we were talking about different things, but no, we're in agreement then.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with this as well. I think with that kind of framing, actually, I think we have Kinzo as being responsible for blowing up the island right in the epitaph. Like, there shall be only one, or whatever the hell was going through his brain. And then potentially Kyrie for this man from 19 years ago, Amakusa, revenge plot of the murders, first of all. I think that's why it gets tricky, because there are, like Ben saying, these two things happening at once.
All right. Well, some interesting theories, some of which have some bits of truth in them. So we will see which of those turn out to be the case. We are going to be starting episode 7, the start of the true answer arc.
Yeah, I've heard that all before, Kyle. So
Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it.
Oh, you'll be seeing it very soon. So for this next bit of reading, we'll be starting episode 7, which is Requiem of the Golden Witch. It's going to be about 3.5 hours of reading, ending on the line, ha 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 ha. Perhaps that is my only redeeming quality. I think grandfather was blessed with a good friend. And there's videos 111 through 115 of the YouTube playlist. There will be answers, just maybe not the answers you thought you were going to get. Looking forward to hearing y'all's thoughts on that.
Don't say just stop saying things, Kyle. Stop saying words.
Okay, and remember to think off meta.
No!
Does that say Nanjo to you, Ben? Grandfather was blessed with a good friend.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you all for writing in. I really enjoy getting to hear y'all's comments. I love that y'all are following along with us for this, for all this. It's been really, really fun. Looking forward to that episode 2 of the Off Meta Umineko podcast where we do the reread. I'll see y'all next time. And remember to think off meta.